Hello and welcome everyone to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Morey Mossovitz, with my favorite co-host, Jen Albanese. Hi, Jen.
Hi, your only co-host. I'm always your favorite. And
always my favorite. I can never be wrong when I make that statement every week.
That's right. Well, thank you so much. You're my favorite co-host too.
Oh, nice. So how was your weekend? How has everything been?
Everything's been good. You know, we've been just enjoying some slower time, which is nice. Went over to Vito's the other day and had a lovely meal as always. You know, we're related, Morey and I, and
Yes.
Our father-in-law owns a restaurant here in Syracuse.
An Italian restaurant, if you didn't hear, Vito's is an Italian restaurant.
Yes,
I
Vito's.
have some very strong feelings about Vito's, as you may or may not know.
Well, let's first say it's excellent. The food is phenomenal. The service is great.
It's one of the best restaurants in town.
Best restaurants in Syracuse. So
you can always have a good meal. Very popular.
Exactly.
Get your reservation early.
Yep. Tell them we sent you.
Yes. Second sponsor number 2.
Yeah,
right. We'll
exactly.
get slip some. But I do have very specific feelings because we do Sunday meals like as a family, very Italian. I'm Jewish, so it's very normal for that large family population. But I've coming into a Italian family every Sunday is dinner with the extended family.
Yes.
And one of the things that we've done regularly is we go to the restaurant.
Yeah,
and
great.
It's just part of our one of our regular routines. And one of the things that I had to get used to is you walk into the restaurant and like everybody knows you and they're talking to you and they start saying, okay, here you go. And then it's a big restaurant and they take you all the way. They have a table privately set up in the back that's no one else is around with a white linens and it's there and everyone's in the back and they take you through the entire restaurant past everybody else and you sit in the very back by yourself with the family spread out around and they bring you the drinks that you already know that you want and they take to you. And I feel like I entered The Godfather. Like it is my, I feel like 100%, I have gone
100%.
into the movie and they ask you, do you want your regular? And, you know, you don't even always order the meal because our father-in-law has already pre-ordered and we're doing family style and the kids know what they want and everyone's going and the Bambinos are running. I feel like I'm in The Godfather.
The music is playing in the background.
It does, yes. That when the moon hits it's all the whole thing is going on in our life. And that's, and I love the restaurant. I love going there. This is not a knock on anything, but it's like one of those flashbacks. Like I think I've entered into a movie.
Well, and it's also because you feel special. You're like being escorted.
You do feel
like
special.
It could be like a super packed Sunday and every table, but nope, we go right in. There could be a wait at the door. We go right into the
private room.
Yep, private room. I think that might also be because the kids are a little loud and we just need to put us in the back
We've heard
corner.
many times the children need to be confined to their own space, but it does make you feel very special that you're put into your own space.
Yeah, but it's so funny though. You're so right about like the food being pre-ordered. Good thing we all like the same stuff too. Yeah. Like, because we always have an antipasto and then we've got pasta and then we've got a chicken parm and it just like keeps coming out. And I'm like, holy crap, it's Sunday dinner. Oh my God, I'm so full.
Yes, but by the end of it, I feel way stuffed.
Yeah, but then I have leftovers for the whole week, which is on point.
Get your lunch for the next day plus the day after.
Exactly. So there's a lot of positives, but I definitely can see the correlation with The Godfather.
It's not negative to be put in The Godfather 1, 2, or 3. You know, no one's getting murdered at our dinners, but it is like a flashback into a movie.
I know. It's pretty great. But I do think partially it's for the kids so they can stay in the back.
It is nice.
And not disrupt the other
customers.
We
don't really go to any other restaurants, either there or someone's house. So it is a special opportunity for us.
Yeah, and the kids actually really like it too. So it's really special.
Papa's Restaurant.
Restaurant.
Called Papa's Restaurant.
A good family atmosphere. And it'll be memories that those kids and we all remember forever.
For a long time.
It's pretty great. So
ready for our guest today?
I know. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too.
He's great.
Great guy, doing amazing things now with an NHL team. So it's awesome to hear about being in the world of a pro.
I know.
And it'll be hockey. So it's cool.
It'll be so good to catch up with him and see how he's been and kind of all the great things he's been doing. So looking forward to it.
So let's get to him after these messages. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming service. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting, a group focused on educating and guiding high school and college students looking towards careers in athletics. To find out more, go to our website at www.athcareer.com. That's ATHCAREER.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. We're so excited to have our guest today, Morey. Let's introduce him.
Very excited. Originally from North Royalton, Ohio, a graduate of Ohio State University and later getting his MBA from the Whitman School of Management, this gentleman started his career as an intern for Learfield at Ohio State. From there, he went on to be a part of the sales representative team at the Cleveland Browns, followed by a stint at Syracuse, where he went from being a ticket sales representative all the way up to director of ticket sales by the time he left. After Syracuse, he went on to be the general manager of ticket sales at Vanderbilt University and is now took on the role of director of sales for the NHL Pittsburgh Penguins. Welcome to the podcast, Connor Siskovic. Welcome.
Hi,
Thanks,
Connor.
Morey. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it. Good to see you guys.
It's great to see you.
How are you? How have you been?
Been great. It's been a busy time, very fun. So as you guys both know, I just recently got married, so that's the biggest thing happening. And
congratulations!
Congratulations!
So exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a couple weeks back. Everything went great, so we're really happy. And yeah, I think we're making that transition into the off season where, as we all know, there really is no off season, but especially I think, in our chairs, it ends up being in some ways the only time we can really get ahead or maybe plan. So if anything, it can be no wasted days, but it's been really great with the Penguins, just over a year and 3 months now since I've been here and got started off, and couldn't ask for a better situation. That's for sure.
So what was it like transitioning from being in college sports for all those years and now going into an NHL pro team environment?
Yeah. In some ways I thought I knew what to expect. And then in some ways I really had no idea. So like you had mentioned, Morey, I got my start in pro sports, or what I really consider my start was in inside sales with the Cleveland Browns. So got a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of the pro model versus my time at Syracuse and Learfield. And I feel like at different times you can kind of pick and choose and take different skill sets. And, for me, I think the biggest thing is just the transition really comes from scale and then specialization. Those are to me, the big 2 differences, right? So when I was in inside sales at the Browns, you are 100 calls a day, cold calls, sales rep, and that is all you're going to do. They don't, and they don't tap you on the shoulder to come help out with, field direction for football or, the marketing crew on game days, right? And, they got their own crew for that. So then making the transition to Syracuse and ultimately Vanderbilt, I think that changes, right? We are always in collegiate athletics looking for help, and there's plenty of opportunity to try different things and get involved. So whether it was women's lacrosse marketing or on-field direction for football or leading our night sales program, there was always more to take on and do on the collegiate level. And so now making that transition back, I felt like I took a step almost back, 50,000-foot view in collegiate athletics, and understood a lot more about the industry as a whole. And then I was able to take that and apply it more to my role now, which is strictly ticket sales, revenue generation on the new business side, I lead our inside sales, new business, and groups teams now.
And what we were talking about before is you got a lot of people under you, so having that experience has kind of changed, given you a new perspective of how to work with people and all the time that you spent in these, the different roles in college.
Yeah, for sure. I think so when I was at Syracuse, our team ranged, but at its biggest, I think we had 8 people in that tiny office. And so, at our biggest, we had 27, and then 36 plus on our floor as a whole. So, certainly it's a lot of different scale. I think from the management side directly, and you guys both understand is when you manage someone and you're trying to manage that individual as much as you can, and then you multiply that, X 20, I think it's a lot to juggle, a lot to keep in mind, but also ultimately what I find that I'm most passionate about. And I think a lot of what I loved in sales, which was finding solutions for my clients, I'm doing the same thing, but I just do it for my employees now.
That's
right?
awesome.
That's so
Great
good. Well,
man
you're
to
a
do
very,
it.
very good leader, Connor.
I
Very good
appreciate
leader.
We're trying every day.
Yeah.
So first tip, even though it feels like we already gave a tip, but the
I
first
know, but
tip,
here we go. Number one.
Yeah. Well, you guys make it tough, right? So you say to choose some tips, and it's like, I mean, I could go all day with this, right? But so try to narrow it down. And so the first one that I really loved, I believe that optimism is profitable, right? And also contagious. So one of the core tenets and characteristics, and this is through about everywhere I've worked, is like have a positive attitude, right? And so I've kind of taken that, and in my head, I think about really how profitable optimism can be, and not just for an individual, especially in a sales role, but also I think for an entire organization in the sales floor, right? So I think almost the opposite is where you see the effect of this, right? If someone is pessimistic. So in sales, we know we get told no a lot. The sale doesn't go your way, maybe it goes somebody else's way. So we have to take that optimistic mindset. If the team isn't performing the way we want, there's a coaching change, a player change, we always have to believe that like that next step is what's going to be best. And if not, we have the tools to make the most of it anyway. And I really believe that when, especially if you're working primarily through email and text these days, and then phone calls, ideally face to face, but oftentimes that's not till later on in the process. That optimism really has to come through that positive attitude. And then your clients are going to feel that. They're going to feel more optimistic and positive. Then your teammates are going to hear you being positive and optimistic. So they'll be more positive and optimistic. Then their clients hear that. And I really think that it can't be understated that I think it's a profitable strategy to be optimistic every single day. And it's also so contagious, especially on a sales floor.
it makes it a lot better to working environment too, where everyone's like feeling good about things instead of like, oh, this is the worst part. But like as a service provider, like afterwards, I feel like it's such a nice thing because you guys are like the first touch point. I don't know if everyone
Right.
like realizes it, but like when a person's coming in the door and like getting to Generi and in a game day experience, like the fact that you guys have been positive and you're putting out this great feeling, it makes it a lot easier when someone comes in and already feels positive about what they're coming into.
Yeah, you got the people in the door. You know what I mean? Like that, you're the first line of getting people there. And what you said about positivity, it's across all areas of athletics. You have to be positive because, again, that helps you work within each department. If you're positive, like if the sales team has a great attitude about things, that's contagious with the marketing team and the facilities team and the creative team and wherever else you're working with. So that just jumps across all departments within athletics. I think that's so true. And it's hard sometimes too. You can get down, like if a team isn't winning, or like you said, something doesn't go right, or something that you put all your effort into isn't successful. But remembering that this is fun too, that what we're doing and what we're a part of. So that's so good. That one's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, look, like I have no problem being the over-the-top, positive, optimistic person in the room, and I think I'm like kind of known for that. And look, I'm sure it drives people nuts sometimes, but that's the price I'm willing to pay for, again, what I think is ultimately gonna not only pay off for me, but pay off for our team, for our clients, and for the people I work with on a long term. So
I'd rather have you in the room than the Eeyore guy that's like walking around like, no, it's never going to get anywhere.
You're setting that example for everybody else around you to want to be like that, and if they want to be a leader or they want to move up in their career, they're watching you do it in the room and they're like, that's what I want to be like. That's what I want to do. So
I still remember when I was first starting off with the Cleveland Browns, so my inside sales manager at the time, every day you would ask him, how's it going? No matter what, no matter when, he would always say, could not be better. And he told me one time, and he's like, just so you know, anytime you ever ask me, I'm going to say I could not be better. He's like, I get to work in sports. I get to walk into this front office every single day. Like, I could not be better. Everything is great, right? And again, I think we would, I think the Browns were 1-15 that season. So we're going into Christmas time with 0 wins, and it's like, could not be better. I'm like, really? Not one win better? But,
maybe
but right. But it does help, right? Through the ups and downs, that's for sure.
Awesome. Great tip.
Yeah.
So what's your second tip for everybody?
So my second tip, and most of my tips are stolen from some other like book or something I read. So this is Nassim Taleb has a great set of books, but it has one focusing on anti-fragility, right? And so take an anti-fragile approach. So I'm going to break this down a little bit. The way I think about this is you don't want to put yourself in a position to break or remain the same. You always want to be getting stronger. So my analogy that I use is if I were to, you said you want to get in shape and you walk into the gym and I drop a 500-pound barbell on you, right? Well, what happens, right? You get squished. In that moment, you're fragile. So why would you do that? You don't want the 500-pound dumbbell. Now, if I gave you 10-pound dumbbells and told you to lift them every single day for a year, what's going to happen? Probably not much.
I'm going to be strong.
Yeah, you're going to be tougher, but you're not really getting where you want to be. So ultimately, you need to take a process where you build over time, right? And so I think this really applies to certainly, I think, our careers and this industry. I think it's really, really hard to put yourself in a position where you're fragile, which means burning yourself out, putting yourself in a position where you're not going to be successful, surrounding yourself by negativity. And I think ultimately a lot of people leave this industry because over time they put themselves in a really tough spot where it was unsustainable. And so at the same time, you don't want to go somewhere where it's so comfortable that you're not growing, you're not being challenged, and nothing's happening over time. So you need to find that anti-fragile position for yourself where you're getting a little bit better every day. And when you feel these stressors, when things feel hard, when you're going through what are really difficult things, right? So I was with you guys when COVID hit. I've been through 2 leadership reorganizations since then. Really not very many winning seasons, if any. Just all these different situations. And I think, certainly I think they can break anybody. But if you have this anti-fragile mindset, you feel that stressor and instead you're just learning, you're taking that in and applying it the next time. And ultimately that's what's going to build to a successful career and also make you a little bit stronger the next time something like that happens. Right. So there's been 2 reorgs in the last, 2.5 years for me. And, I'm sure I wouldn't look at the second one the same way if I didn't go through the first one.
Do you kind of put pen to paper and make yourself think about it, or are you just kind of taking it day by day and kind of that internal speak mantra?
Yeah. Probably more the latter. I probably should do a little bit more pen to paper, but every time I've tried to really get into that, it's never been my strong suit. So, for me, I really talk it out a lot. I think I think people appreciate vulnerability, especially reps. And as leaders, I think when we can be vulnerable and explain, yeah, this is a difficult situation. This is why we're going to take the optimistic route. This is why we're going to work through it together. And this is what I've seen in the past so we can move forward. And so some of it is a little bit of that fake it till you make it approach, I think, right? And really taking in that mindset. And then also just giving yourself the tools, right? So I always say, if I'm going to be leading this team and we're going to be competing for Stanley Cups on the ice, we better be competing for them off the ice too, right? And in the front office every day. So if I'm going to be leading that ship, I better be investing every day in the best ways to run a day, the ways to optimize your schedule, to be more efficient, how to support my employees. Ultimately, I work for them. I give them the tools to be successful, and they're the ones that run with it. So, so I think it's a lot of just keeping it top of mind in everything I do, Morey, in that way, and trying to keep that mindset.
It's awesome. Very awesome.
So good.
I think that's one of the biggest things, that inner monologue that you can set up for yourself can definitely make it kind of easier to deal with things day to day. If you have that goal set mindset that you're reiterating to yourself, I don't think you always do need to write it down. It can just be a way for you to keep track of yourself and keep yourself in hey, did I do this for myself today? Did I put myself in the right position today? That's awesome.
I mean, I think if you have that mindset, right, we're either winning or we're learning. And then all of a sudden failure falls off the table. It's not even something you think about. And I just carry that in hopefully everything I do, or at least I try to.
That's awesome.
That's so good. We always talk about being comfortable or being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So then that way you're always feeling challenged, but you're not slipping into the negativity and you're really pushing yourself. Cause I've been where I'm at Syracuse for a while, and you can get into that rut of like the same thing. And now granted, we've had some changes, but trying to challenge yourself and keeping doing that is something you do have to tell yourself over and over again. So I like that. I like that you do that, not being fragile. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. And I think too, as we think about leaders, one of the things that I think I've realized that I think we could all admit to is that like a lot of the times we're still all figuring it out too, right? And mental
100%.
situations are the same,
100%.
right? So,
Yeah.
just being able to acknowledge that and be like, this is okay because I'm building something else and I'm going to be doing this for many more years. And this is ultimately what's going to keep building me up. So just hitting the weights. That's all.
I'm
In
gonna
the weights.
add.
Just don't give me 500 pounds. I can't do that.
I'm just gonna have to look up the book. It's gonna add to my book list. Every once in a while, I throw a book in there, so that's what I'm going to look up.
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, number 3.
All right. So tip number 3, early on in your career, and I know I struggled with this, and I think a lot of people do, is focusing on execution before ideation. So everybody wants to be the strategist. Everybody wants to run the show and be the idea person. And I think it took me a long time to realize that like ideas are a dime a dozen, right? Like everybody's got great ideas. What's rare and hard to find is someone who can execute every single day, right? So I think is if you're early on in your career, especially, but I think even in my chair, right? Like if I want to go be a VP or an SVP one day, I better be able to execute every single day as a director, right? And if I'm looking too far forward about, well, I'd be so good at strategizing, like why would anyone believe me, right? So I think early on, focus and show that you can execute on someone else's vision before you execute on your own. I think one of the toughest things is when you have somebody that has all big ideas, but then we can't get them to do the things that we want them to do on a day-to-day basis. So I think really early on, being a sponge, being open to learning, essentially acknowledging like you probably know less than you think you do. I still think I'm like that. Like I know that I'm still at the very base of this huge mountain that I plan to climb the rest of my career. And I think being a really top-notch executioner in that way is something that's very, very rare, especially nowadays. And I think as you put in someone who's open to learning, coachable, and hardworking with that positive attitude, and then they invest in that every single day. Now that's the person I want leading my next team. It's not necessarily the person who has the best ideas, the best strategies, because those won't necessarily run the way we want them to. So execution before ideation, huge tip that took me a long time to, I think, realize, especially early on in my career.
Yeah.
I know by the time you left Syracuse that you definitely were great at it, because I appreciated about you that you would come in and be like, kind of thought through things and ask questions. And like for a lot of us, especially those who are in like facilities and event operations, people come in with these, great ideas, but have no possible clue how to do it. And you say to them like, okay, well, how do you expect this to happen? They're like, well, that's not my job. I just come up with the ideas. And it's like, well, if you can't actually make your idea, like if there's no way to make your idea happen, what's the point of the idea? And so like for me, that's huge. Like that's anyone that can come in and be like, like ask questions and develop their execution and develop like their idea into something before they even present it to anyone, or like put it out there because they've got experience and they kind of know what they're talking about. And they know like, hey, I can't hang this from a roof. It won't work. Or, and has spent the time to actually know something. It's crazy how many people have like gone through or, you've met or you've been in the field with, or it's like these people have so many ideas, but they've never gotten one off the ground. It's like kind of a crazy concept. Jen's laughing because we deal with this.
I'm laughing because it was all Connor holding the football team and cueing them on the field. Once he got to do all that, he learned all about execution.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
getting yelled at by many coaches.
That's all about it. Once you go through that execution process, you can talk through anything else. But
when coach wants to run through that tunnel and I'm shaking his head no, and he's like, who is this guy? Like, And look, like, I think I'm telling you too, like, this is one of the things that happens all the time. And you guys, I'm sure still know this, but like, even with my current facilities team, and I have a fantastic team that I work with every day, and our operations team, like, I know, like, this is just the way it is, right? Like, we kind of
Right.
I have a great
Oh,
idea.
yeah.
And they're like, here's all the reasons why,
Yeah.
it won't work that way. But I think also just being open, right? Like, okay, that's fine. Like, turn a no into a no, but, right? Like,
Right.
I get it.
Right.
Okay. So my dream vision of this isn't going to work. That's okay. What can we do? And then
Right.
being okay with, again, like getting everybody on board with an idea of like, hey, we're going to try this. If it doesn't work, that's okay. But I think the execution side of strategy still, I mean, the reason a lot of plans fail aren't because they're bad ideas. It's because nobody's driving the ship.
Right.
Right.
And I think it's got to be very, very meticulous. Everything's got to be thought through. And if you're not doing like a pre-mortem, like before you launch a new idea, what could go wrong? Like you should be thinking through that. Are we doing a post-mortem meeting every time? Where can we get better for next time? Was this even worth doing? And I think people start to respect the way your idea is a lot more when you show that you respect their time and energy.
And if you're looking at it and you're not willing to like be the person that's executed or think, okay, I could execute it and then go put it on a team member, like that's definitely never going to work. Like I kind of agree. I never will like give something or an idea that came up with and say, okay, here it is. I'm just going to drop it in. Like you have to be willing to say, okay, I would do this myself.
Yeah.
I'd follow this through because I understand that it has value and I understand how to get this done. And I might not be the one boots on the ground doing it at the end of the day, but I can walk through it with my team member. I can make them have a positive outcome. So that's an awesome tip.
Yeah, and I think about Anthony DeFino, and this is one of the DeFino-isms that he gave me back when I started there. Anytime somebody had a new idea, he would just look at you and say, okay, own it.
Own it. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. That's what he would always say.
I still say it all the time. Okay, own it.
Yep.
And I do that to my reps still.
Like it's a great idea. Now do it. Like you got to do it. If you have the
Such
idea,
a great
you got to
idea.
do it. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, Anthony, he's still with us.
Always.
Okay, what number 4? Are we on number 4?
We're on
Yeah.
4. We're on 4.
3 great
All
ones
right.
down. Number 4.
Cool. So I'm a big believer in luck. But I'm also a big believer that we can control our own luck. So that's my catch-22 on this. So in everything we do, and I think in your life, there's always going to be this element of luck. I think about sales, right? There's a certain element of blind luck that hits us every day. That is, everybody's waiting to answer the phone. The first person picks it up, and it's the massive, I want the biggest club seat sale. I want to buy a suite, whatever that is. Easiest sale they've ever made in their life. Meanwhile, the rep next to them is making 500 calls a day and can't get anything to fall through, right?
Yep.
And this is just something that happens every single day. There's always going to be somebody that gets less that deserves more, and somebody that gets more that deserves less. And I think, that's just the reality of like, I think randomness and luck. But I truly believe that there's a few different ways that we can manipulate luck that people should be doing really, really early on. So and this is another, of course, one I copy, but the luck surface area, right? So if it's raining and raindrops are luck, you want the biggest possible umbrella you could get, right? So a few different ways that people can control their luck. And this is like, so it's kind of a few tips in one here, Morey, but so forgive me for that.
We'll take all of them.
Our listeners will love it.
Good. So number 1 is like luck through motion, right? This is like the hard work aspect of luck. Like, are you putting yourself out there? Like in sales, I think it's, if you have 2 equal reps and one makes 100 calls a day, one makes 110, my money's going on the one that makes 110.
Right.
Even if they're processed the exact same, they're increasing their chances of getting lucky, right? So luck from motion, put yourself in motion to create luck. Second is luck from awareness, right? Are you able to recognize a situation where you can get lucky and then put yourself out there, right? So are you knowledgeable enough in the industry to see a trend and say, that's something I should jump all over, right? So in Pittsburgh, we may know that a certain industry is blowing up, right? It's all over the news, but if nobody reads it, then we can't take advantage of it. But if all it takes is one rep to take the action to say that's awareness, now I'm going to call 1,000 law firms or whatever it is, all of a sudden they're getting lucky, but it wasn't really luck in the first place, right? And the third one is luck from uniqueness. So this is how do you stand out ultimately? And I think there's so many times where it can come down to this or that, A or B, and we don't really know what direction we're going to go. So the smallest way that's like you can separate yourself from the pack. My big thing at Syracuse was I just was the Syracuse ticketing guy. So when I was a rep, I didn't care if somebody wanted to buy a season plan, a single game ticket, or just complain about our mobile ticketing. I made sure when I hung up, I sent them an email with a thank you, with my contact, and said, if you need anything with Syracuse Athletics, you reach out to me first. Now, over time, the name just gets out there. And I would have people call my phone, and, after we beat Clemson on Friday the 13th, they're not calling the general line, they're calling my line, right? So that's my way of standing out. That's the uniqueness.
Yeah.
And I guess the last point about this, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Interstellar. So this is the analogy. In that movie, they're traveling the galaxy to try to find another planet that's habitable. And they're looking at this one planet that's really close to the black hole. And they say, we could go there, but the odds that anything survived there is really, really low because the black hole's right there. That can be anti-luck to you in your life. And that could be a person, it could be a situation, it could be a mindset. So we just have to avoid those black holes, avoid that anti-luck at all costs, because those are the things that are going to make it so that no raindrops hit your umbrella. So control your own luck, increase your luck surface area. There's all kinds of ways we can do it. But I know I've been extremely lucky in my career. And I hope to continue to get lucky by doing some of these things.
That's probably the most metaphors we've had in one explanation.
Oh my God, that was
awesome.
Unbelievable. Like, we don't even need to say anything. Like, that was so good.
I'm ready to go sell tickets now. I'm good.
I know.
There you go. That's part of the job right there. Yeah.
You made your luck. You made your luck, Connor. You made it,
Right. But again, of having fantastic people, right? Like, I think about Brett Wallace and Anthony DeFino and you guys, like, who can I sit behind and listen to? Like, that's a little bit of luck from awareness, right? Like, I followed Brett around for 6 seasons and, I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for him and from all you guys, right? So in some ways, I'm just lucky to have known you. But I've also was aware enough to not run away from a good thing, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, Connor, so good. Okay. Last question. This one's a good one. So what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So what do you know now? It's your career at this point that you wish you knew when you first started.
Chill out a little bit. I think that's it. I need to relax. It's a long road, right? Yeah, I think like taking a step back and realizing that like inside sales was so important to my career. I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for that. But when I didn't get promoted out of my inside sales class, but that's why I ended up in Syracuse. That's why I have my MBA. It's why I met you guys. It's why I'm here today. And I think just again zooming out and focusing on controlling the controllables, relaxing a little bit in the day to day, patience in the process, right? So I have been extremely lucky over the course of my career to work for some amazing brands, have some amazing titles and positions and things like that. But what I ultimately realized is that I'm very lucky to wear the Pittsburgh Penguin. I'm very lucky to wear the block S at different times. But ultimately, those aren't the things that define our careers, right? And our titles don't define our careers, our logos, our brands, whether we're in the NHL or the minor leagues or collegiate or pros. These aren't the things that define us. Only our skill set and the way that other people feel about us defines us. That's what defines our career over the course. So I would have started investing in that a little bit earlier in my growth and my focus on myself and my skill sets. Priorities are always going to change. And the biggest thing is, and again, I've seen reorganizations and really successful people be in positions they probably didn't think they were going to be in, but also be totally fine because they were their own careers and they weren't defined by any single brand or any single title, which at the end of the day is a lot of noise. What really matters is what are the skill sets we're building? How are we investing in ourselves and how are we investing in each other?
You're never going to lose out if you invest in yourself. Like there's always going to be a benefit at the end of the day where you believe in yourself and give yourself that investment. But it's definitely hard to see when you're at that start of the career where it's like, oh, I got to get to the next thing. I got to do the next thing. I got to keep moving up.
Yeah.
But you look back and you're like, you know what? The process was more valuable almost than the journey to the end. You look back and you think of all the times that you spent and the people that you spent it with. It's hard to see when you're there, I think.
Yeah, right. It's like, I wish somebody told you were in the good old times when you were still in them or whatever, the office quote,
exactly.
right?
I know.
Yeah. And I guess, like, again, I think about times when you feel really beat down throughout your career, or whether it's a sale. And, like, of course, now I look back and I'm like, that 9-month period during when I was at the Browns, they were my hometown team too. There's so much emotion wrapped in there. It just felt like this roller coaster up and down and trying to control that. But if you invest in yourself, compound interest over time, it's like the stock market. If you zoom out, it's like this, but over time, it just looks like this.
Yeah.
And that's where we're trying to go.
Well,
All right, so we're gonna chill out, Connor. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna chill out.
Zoom out.
You still need to say that to yourself. Like, I feel like you need to say that to yourself a lot. So
now more than ever.
Now more
young
than
professionals out there, chill out, relax.
Yeah. You got plenty of time. You got a long career ahead of you. You're probably going to be doing this for the next, 40, 50 years. So
right. Chill out. Morey,
be anti-fragile. Don't burn out.
Jen does say it to me a lot, but I do see her talking to a lot of young people, like in her office. Chill out, which makes me a little stressed out. Like, what's going on here? We need to back it down a little bit, Jen.
Yeah. It's hard though. I mean, it is serious, right? It's our lives, it's our careers.
Yeah.
And, I mean, especially as you think about people first getting started, like, there's no compass, there's no map for them to follow. Like, we oftentimes are the map, and the resources that you guys are putting out there, like this, is the map that people get to follow and understand. So I think that's the biggest thing. If one student out there can sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to invest in myself, and when I hit a wall, I'm okay backing up to move forward. That's where the relax and the chill out, because it's like, just keep doing those things, and over time, it's all going to pay off.
It'll get there.
Yeah,
It'll get there.
Not
It'll
if,
all
but
work
when.
out. Exactly.
Connor, this was awesome. I feel like one day I'm going to have you be a sales inspirational speaker. You hit it key on.
Oh my gosh.
We'll do a tour around the country. You can join the business as the sales representative for inspirational speaking, and we'll just book you across the general United States.
I'm
learning.
I'm chilling out. I'm ready to go now. I want to go ready to go. Be a better leader. So
count me in. No, well, again, I think it goes back to everything I said. Like, these are all the things that I learned from you guys and from, a lot of the people that we know. I'm, again, a very lucky person, and a lot of it does feel like blind luck sometimes, but I just appreciate it. And obviously, like, for you guys to take the time and have me on, it means a lot.
Well,
this been so great.
This has been great. Congratulations on the wedding, and
thank you.
We know
you're on everything
that you're doing, and I'm sure we're going to hear more from you in the future. But for now, we're going to start signing off and just say thanks to everyone for joining us, and make sure to check us out on our next episode.
Thanks, Connor. Bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.